Alright, I am back with another Destiny 2 video. I have been kind of dreading today because I knew there was going to be a TWAB. I knew it was probably going to be big, and my voice is just destroyed right now. I was at a little better than a whisper last night, so I'm a little better than that now. I think I'm good enough to record a video, but apologies in advance. Bear with me here. Of course, they have finally they have a meaty TWAB during the week where my voice is screwed up and I have to read like 5,000 words or whatever is going on here. But, I guess that's how it goes. We'll see. We'll see how I sound by the end of this, and no promises I won't skip things. I'm going to skip the intro here, and they're talking about essentially just economic changes coming, which is good. I did not know they were going to get into that. And I know we have some weapon stuff here. First, they're going to talk about the mistaken bans, I believe, on the account security side, which happened this week. A bunch of people got banned and then unbanned. So we will get into that now. Here to talk about the most recent wave of account bans and restrictions is our product security team. Before getting into explanations, we apologize to impacted players up front. Our job is to our players, and our team unfortunately did the opposite this past week. When mistakes are made, transparency is important. We hope the information below, vague as it may be in order to avoid teaching cheat developers about our system, provides insight into what happened. During the development of one of our cheater detections, a combination of requirements was set for banning a particular class of cheaters. We utilize specific signatures that those types of players generate. Early last week, we started seeing an increase in appeals and began investigating. Once we identified the problem with the signature, we immediately unbanned anyone we could identify as impacted. We then began reviewing recent security actions with a fine-tooth comb and continued to unban people based on a review of appeals and our own investigations where appropriate. Here are some points to consider when discussing the most recent wave. The number of accounts caught cheating in other ways is much larger than those impacted by the mistake described above. Looking at this new detection, which itself is a fraction of all security actions that take place, approximately 60 accounts were false positives. This mistake was a result of human error. We worked as quickly as we could to identify it and rectify it. We sincerely apologize for the anxiety and uncertainty this has caused. Yeah, I did as much as this was spreading around, it really was only a small handful of kind of quote unquote bigger accounts, or at least people that were somewhat known in the community getting banned. So I didn't think this was thousands and thousands of people. So interesting to see that here. Unbans began to occur within 24 hours of the first indication of a problem. Anyone who has appealed against their ban and subsequently has been unbanned has received a direct response to their appeal, indicating that reversal. We have several ways of detecting cheating in Destiny 2, and those unbanned were affected by the specific error mentioned above. If players find themselves banned in the future, they were detected by one of our other methods. We can confirm there's a lot of misinformation being passed around regarding why a person may be banned or unbanned. In instances where unbans happen, players who are knowingly cheating insert themselves into these conversations to try and get their bans overturned. Please utilize our ban appeal process so we can follow up with the individual accounts. This is like when the guy was filing all the YouTube copyright strikes, and then that may have been a smokescreen to get his own channel unbanned because he had a music channel that was banned by Bungie for copyright stuff. The problem is now, though, I feel like anytime bans come up now, they're going to be like, well, remember that one time when you banned a bunch of people who didn't deserve it and you guys screwed up. So, this is a bit of reputational damage on that front, and that is going to take a while for them to recover from, and will probably make people stop and think twice about people when they do get banned, even if in the future it is justified. This is just kind of a cluster. Ugh. All right. Weapons, I am your father. Systems design team, probably. Look, there's no design that Destiny has some pretty sweet tools for Guardians to kick butt and take names with, from flashy purple magic of awesome to the all-helpful Divinity for support. There's a seeming... Oh wait, is Divinity getting nerfed? Is this it? There's a seemingly endless line of badass gadgets in our Guardians arsenal. Our weapons team has been talking a lot about different weapon changes and philosophy, and now they're back to tackle some of the most asked questions we get regarding that pew-pew power. So, I don't know if this is direct nerfs and buffs or discussion, but I guess we'll find out. Here to chat more are a few members of our weapons team, including test engineer Taylor, design intern Alex, designers Brandon and Vivian, associate designer Mercules, senior designer George. I love Mercules is still just named Mercules, even though he's working at Bungie. I love it. and Senior Design Lead Chris Proctor. I will notice they're keeping the last names out of these other people whose names we don't already know, which is probably one of their anti-harassment things, which is a good thing. Let's just jump into those questions, team. General questions. When the full auto setting arrives for all weapons, are you still going to keep the full auto trigger system mod as an option? It's kind of nice to have the flexibility without making every weapon full auto. Yes, there are no plans to remove it. The full auto trigger system mod isn't going away. What will replace full auto trigger system on exotics and have it as a perk within the new accessibility feature when the new accessibility feature goes live. We don't want to inadvertently make these stronger in PvP, so the goal here was to replace full auto with something fun and thematic, but more useful in PvE than PvP. Here are some examples. Replace full auto trigger system in the catalyst with surplus. Oh, interesting. Well, that's perfectly synergistic with that. That's great. Vigilance Wing. Replaced full auto trigger system in the catalyst with ensemble. That makes sense. This is a big fire team based weapon, and I mean, it's a free perk essentially if it was going to be full auto anyway. No time to explain. Replace full auto with feeding frenzy. Interesting. That is good for PvE. Fantastic. Divinity. Oh, and kinetic weapons. I was just talking about this today. Okay. Note that encounters are built around players having access to being able to weaken, as many folks have theorized. We don't believe that Divinity in its current form is actually a balance problem, i.e. it's not necessarily too strong in isolation. That said, Divinity is incredibly dominant in endgame PvE because it trivializes aiming precision weapons and has a extremely high uptime for weaken. The most important issue is that Divinity granting 30% weaken sucks the air out of the room for all other weaken sources, such as Tether and Tractor Cannon, and we don't want to power creep past Divinity to make them interesting. It's the Salt and Greppo nerf. It's coming. With this in mind, we've been looking at Divinity for a while now and have tested a variety of changes. In Season 19, over the last few months, landing on reducing Divinity's weaken from 30% to 15%. There it is. That is pretty much what most people were proposing in the end, because this does not take away the cage, so this will still help you with precision damage. It will just not be this auto debuff of 30%. It is down to 15%, meaning it can be replaced by a stronger debuff. I forget how much Tether even is now. And Tractor Cannon 25? I don't remember. They've changed them a bunch of times. Sure, this will be controversial. I'm sure Salt is going to get so much crap today. I also want to tweet about this, but I don't want to interrupt my video. Okay. Comments on kinetic weapons in PvE. We are looking at the kinetic damage type as opposed to slot. Changes sometime post-Lightfall to make this a more interesting aspect of how weapons feel. Is that it? Okay. Not great. Okay, what about Adept raid weapon viability? As it stands, crafted base raid weapons are flat out better than Adept raid weapons. We're not happy with this current state and have changes coming in Lightfall that give new Lightfall raid Adept weapons access to enhanced perks. Note that this is not going to be full freeform crafting. It's a little complex, so please look out for more information to come when we're a little closer to Lightfall's release. Okay, so there are going to be ways for Adept weapons to get enhanced perks that are not crafting. So maybe you earn a currency and upgrade them? I don't know, but that is coming to some degree. Future plans for exotic champion weapons. We don't have any specific plans to add anti-champion mechanics to existing exotic weapons. The goal of recent additions was to address some obvious holes in the options available, and we're happy with how that worked out. That said, we are building anti-champion functionality into a new exotic weapon in Season 19, and may revisit other weapons later if we see a need. King's Fall weapons have unorthodox perk pools. What are the team's feelings about continuing to do this versus making custom raid perks to differentiate from endgame rewards? We have guidelines for how spicy perk pools can be depending on the difficulty of the source of the weapon. For example, Trials of Osiris and raid weapons get to break our standard perk combination rules. The King's Fall weapons push this to an extreme, and we're evaluating whether they're an actual balance issue. It seems okay so far, though. This is like, I assume they're talking about like Firefly, Dragonfly, like things that just don't exist really anywhere else, or like the kill clip bow, like things they just don't do anywhere else. We intend raid origin traits to make raid weapons feel unique and may still make one or more perks that are exclusive to a new raid. Starting in Season 19, you will see a smaller number of non-raid weapons get access to perks from older raids. So I wonder if they're going to put in stuff like the DSC perks, like recombination and stuff into... They talked about doing that before, I think. So Does Outbreak Perfected truly have persistence, or is it simply its recoil settling like any weapon? I don't know what that is. Outbreak does not have persistence. What is persistence? Is that it? I don't know what persistence is. It does have 90 recoil direction, where similar weapons are in the 40 to 60 range, but more importantly, it recoils like an auto rifle, not a pulse rifle, which is why it feels so unique. This was a Destiny 1 bug we elected to maintain in the Destiny 2 reprise of the weapon. Okay. The Cold Denial that Xur sold with the Accuracy Masterwork, does that actually improve its accuracy? Oh wow, we're really getting into the weeds here. Masterworks provide additional weapon stats to a stat already existing on a weapon. Weapons can't benefit from a stat they don't have. Only bows have an accuracy stat. So no, inaccuracy Masterwork does not work on Cold Denial. So that's just a bug. Do stability perks such as Rapid Hit affect perfect draw window on bows? Yes, anything that affects the stability set on bow will affect the perfect draw window. Well, didn't know that. How is it for the weapons team to add subclass verbs like Headstone, Chokeclip, and Incandescent to weapon? Did you enjoy seeking the two more closely in gameplay and builds? What if you're like, no, it sucks, we hated it. Subclass 3.0 verbs open a huge amount of design space for weapons. The perks we've already made are just the beginning. Okay, so we are going to get more of those. Really need a void one that is not Repulsor Brace. That is the one that is suffering the most, I think. Why does only a subset of exotic weapons tie into subclass 3.0? We're not planning to tie every exotic into subclass 3.0 verbs, but over time we'll add functionality to several of them, starting with those that are strongly themed around damage types. Cough, Sunshot. That was me, they didn't say that, but coming, it's gotta be, right? We're currently looking at seasons 20 and 21 for passes on this. So 20 is Lightfall, 21 is after Lightfall. But we don't have anything more on this particular topic at this time. Are we going to be able to have multiple perks in each column on crafted weapons at some point in the future? We are investigating this for a possible future release, but it's a more complicated task than it first appears. Nothing in the immediate future, but we will continue looking deeper into this. I know this is how it should work, but like, you're just going to make crafted weapons even stronger than they are now. So I'm hoping in the economy section later here, we're going to be hearing about craftings. That's the most important part of the economy right now. How do the extra perks on ritual resets actually work? Is there a cap to the benefit? That is actually a good question. We have a formula that determines the maximum number of alternative perks based on the number of resets. For example, not going to read that. Okay, what this means is the left column max perk counts increases at first and third resets, and the right column increases at second and fourth. The maximum possible is 3 perks in each column, with the actual number randomized between 1 and the current maximum. Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't think you could get past 3 in each. I mean, that's enough, probably. There's been a lot of discussion on perk drop rates recently. I'd really like to know if all perks are truly weighted equally and randomized, or if certain perks, i.e. newer ones, have drop priority. Weapon perks are weighted equally under all circumstances. There are 0 cases in the game where one perk is more likely to roll than another. Yeah, this has been like an urban legend for a really long time, but it is not true. I've heard you're reworking 20 exotic weapons in Season 19. Why so many? We said we're touching 20 exotics, both buffs and nerfs, but the extent of that varies quite a bit. Did they say this before? I don't remember. I remember hearing about like a larger overhaul. I didn't know we had an exact number. From a substantial rework, i.e. Lord of Wolves, to a small but impactful change, Legend of Acreus, there's a lot to cover, both big and small. Also, a small update on that number, 20 is out of date. It's now 26. Oh, good. Okay. We always keep the list of under and overused exotics in mind and decided to take on a big chunk of them in Season 19. 26. That is significant. All right. What are the criteria for reprising Destiny 1 weapons in Destiny 2? It's important to note it's simply impossible to simply copy and paste Destiny 1 content into Destiny 2. Yes. Because of engine changes and the significantly higher bar for art quality on current generation hardware, any Destiny 1 content has to be rebuilt from scratch. They're basically the same development cost as brand new Destiny 2 weapons, and with some exceptions, we believe players significantly prefer new content over Reprise. Yeah, plus they're like pretty much running out of like Destiny 1 exotics that are even remotely worth bringing over at this point. And the ones they've left behind are like mostly problematic, like Icebreaker. For raids, we'll always reprise an exotic weapon associated with a raid when we bring that into Destiny 2. Do they know that we already have Outbreak and there's only one real raid left? Sorry, Kazari Coda's End. I guess so it's just Necrochasm is the only one. They'd have to make a new exotic for the other one. So we'll select 6 popular legendary weapons and reprise those as well for the raid. One other thing, and this hasn't come up yet, but in the event that a raid didn't have an exotic, oh, here we go, or that exotic has already come back, or there are fewer than 5 legendaries, we get to make new weapons to match the raid. Okay, so if they bring back, why can't I remember the name of this raid? Oh my god. You know the Siva raid, total mind blank. This is embarrassing. Okay. Anyway, they're going to make a new Siva-based weapon, I would assume, based on that. Oh my god. Wrath of the Machine. What am I doing? Oh my god. Okay. That was embarrassing. Wrath of the Machine. I know the name. Alright. It's a numbers game. Why does Adagio have to be on so many different weapons? It's actually not. Adagio is branched 2 ways, specifically to prevent it from being too strong on bows. One hit kills for getting a single bow kill is way too strong, and shotguns. Bow plus shotgun, 20% damage, everything else 30% damage. Note that because of the damage number rounding, it may be difficult for players to reverse engineer this in-game. What does Zen Moment actually do? Each hit grants a stack, max 5, that lowers recoil. Oh, I didn't know there was like stacks. Reloading or not hitting for a second one clears all stacks. As for what it does, maximum stacks massively reduces recoil. I feel like Zen Moment is barely ever on anything anymore. I mean, it's a pretty boring perk, but in your opinion, would you use accuracy perks firmly planted on Slug Shotgun? By my testing, they seem to be very accurate by default. I don't observe much spread. Don't think you can spread a Slug Shotgun? Maybe that's the joke. Slug Shotguns are very accurate, so it's likely only worth using accuracy perks if you plan on using them while airborne. Who uses guns while airborne in Destiny? Get out of here. Or in other situations that reduce accuracy. What are the numbers on enhanced perks? Are there any guidelines or rules of thumb for all? Specifically, how much the enhanced versions of Firmly Planted and Opening Shot, very focused on Firmly Planted, and Opening Shot give versus the base perks? The guideline is that an enhanced perk should be 5 to 10% stronger than a base perk. We do exceed this in some cases, though. Here's an example of the enhanced version. Enhanced Firmly Planted grants an additional 5 stability and handling compared to base. Enhanced Opening Shot grants an additional 5 range and 5 aim assist compared to base. I'm genuinely curious why the One Quiet Moment origin trait was created. What's the benefit of having increased reload outside of combat? It's like in between combat encounters, like in Crucible, when you're like running to your next thing. I get it. The intended loop is to pause after engagement to see whether you have another enemy to deal with for reloading your weapons, because being caught mid-reload is bad news. This is something that doesn't match everyone's playstyles. We'll be updating this in Season 19. Oh, okay, so that's getting a buff. That's cool. What is the minimum draw time on bows after the recent changes? Minimum is 500 for lightweight, 540 for precision. Weapon perks can reduce this further. Odds and ends. One for Australian players. Neighbors or home and away. Neighbors. Don't know what that is. What is the Nutbush emote coming to the game? Don't know what that is. We've heard a rumor there might be a weird Australian emote coming after Lightfall. When do we get a truly awkward perk names like Drongo, 2-Up, Rakoff, or Struth? I don't know any of these words. Is the weapon team Australian? I think Proctor is, right? I don't know. Weapon names only so far, and there's a fair amount of those. They're not accidental, such as Terrabuff, Funnel Web, Redback, and Lunulata. Redback? Really? Okay. What are your favorite weapon perk combinations on the weapons team? Proctor, Perpetual Motion, Surrounded on sidearms and submachine gun. Brandon, Heating Up and Rampage and Pulse Rifles. Vivian, Stats for All and Reservoir Burst on fusion rifles. Oh, that's interesting. Alex, Intern. Grave Robber and Golden Tricorn on arc weapons for PvE. Killing Wind and Rangefinder on submachine guns for PvP. Mercules, Moving Target, Perpetual Motion, Kill Clip on any primary weapon for PvP. Yep. Perpetual Motion, Killing Wind. I blame 90s arena shooters. Taylor, Killing Wind, and Multi-Kill Clip. People freaking love Killing Wind, huh? I guess that's why we see Killing Wind on like literally everything now. What replica weapon would you want? Dead Man's Tail, Proctor, Brandon, Lorenz Driver, Vivian, Redacted Season 19 Solar Exotic Weapon. Oh, okay, so we're getting a Solar Exotic. Alex, Redacted Lightfall Raid Exotic Weapon, but Terrabo's a close second. Redacted Season 19 Kinetic Exotic Weapon. George, Redacted Season 18 Festival of the Lost Weapon. So, the sniper rifle that we've seen. Okay. Grid Skipper. Everyone's like picking all these secret weapons, and Taylor's just like, Grid Skipper. I don't know why, that just made me laugh. I'll be interested in looking at what perks make god rolls on what weapons, what would be recommended for a scout rifle, submachine gun, and pulse rifle, what works and why. I know this isn't like a lot of specific nerfs and buffs, but I'm really enjoying this. I'm not going to lie. Mercules depends on a lot on what the role is going to be. These roles can be broken up into some general areas. PvE, regardless of the role, generally perks increase damage, increase magazine size, grant ammo, improve reload speed, or prioritize for ad clear, yellow bar, champ, killer, DPS weapons. Ad clearing, perks that trigger on final blows are great. Rampage, subsistence, swashbuckler, and feeding frenzy. Tanky and DPS, perks that trigger from dealing damage like frenzy, firing line, rapid hit, or triple tap. PvP, two very different styles of perk performance. Dueling, perks that increase the consistency of the gun in 1v1. Moving target, rangefinder, opening shot, eye of the storm, etc. Kill chaining, perks that provide dramatic improvements to weapon performance after a kill. Kill clip, tunnel vision, killing wind, rampage, etc. What is your opinion on rangefinder drastically changing the effectiveness, the effective engagement distances on weapons? Zoom benefit already improves damage fall off and effective accuracy, but the aim assist fall off increase feels like a lot. Oh wow, are we petitioning for a rangefinder nerf here? We'll be removing the added aim assist fall off in the mid-season balance pass. The perk is ridiculously strong with just the zoom bonus. It doesn't need to increase aim assist fall off in addition to that. There you go. Is someone going to fix Fate of All Fools perk on Jade Rabbit? It's totally inconsistent. Sometimes it doesn't work at all. These are great questions. Yes, the perk is having similar issues to what was going on with Cranial Spike on Dead Man's Tale. The plan is to change it so that rapidly chaining precision hits, effectively the same trigger as triple tap, will make your next body shot deal the same damage as a crit, and you'll be able to store up 3 increased damage body shots at a time. So if you hit 9 crits quickly, you could follow that up and kill someone in PvP with 3 body shots. You have to reward accuracy to make the gun easier to use instead of the other way around. How do you feel about Season 17 and Season 18 balance challenges now that they have been in the wild for a decent amount of time? We think most of them landed pretty well, all things considered. High impact, 150 RPM scout rifles probably get overbuffed by a small bit. Auto rifles probably did not get buffed enough. Yeah, I can agree with both those. We've seen precision frame, 180 scout rifles and hand cannons come up in usage and effectiveness, which is great. What future balance changes should we looking forward to? Alright, here we go. Not specifics maybe, but in the mid-season balance patch, we'll be making a number of changes to both under and overperforming archetypes. Sizable stability bump for auto rifles and trace rifles. Small buff to critical hit damage on adaptive frame pulse rifles and precision frame auto rifles. Slightly reduced effective range of pulse rifles at low to mid stat values. Nerfs to Jade Rabbit and no time to explain ease of use. What does that mean? Handling? Okay. Continuation of the Lord of Wolves rework. Small rocket launcher blast radius buff. Alright. Glaive damage, resistance nerfs, sidearm aim assist, fall off buff. Yeah, sidearm buffs, yes. Sniper flinch rework. Very small tweaks to some machine guns that are outperforming their intended ranges. Yeah, we're still doing that, huh? Small decrease to high impact scout rifle damage. Oh, sad. Some outliers that have zoom levels outside normal parameters being brought back in line. Risk runner PvP arc damage resistance reduction will still remain ridiculous in PvE. Perfect, that's all I care about. In Season 19, we have an additional list of changes we'll be making, including removing some shotgun randomness, improved hit detection for glaives, reworking changing nearly 20 weapon perks, reworking changing over 20 exotic weapons, which they said earlier is now 26. Do trace rifles have accuracy blooms you hold down the trigger? No. Is under pressure going to be nerfed on fusion rifles? How are you going to find the rein in Zura's main ingredient without diminishing precision frames as a whole? We are not going to nerf under pressure on fusion rifles. Most likely thing we will do if main ingredient usage doesn't come down is lower its stats. They're just gonna straight up lower main ingredient stats. I love it. This will allow us to avoid hitting all precision frame fusion rifles and give other weapons in the subfamily room to breathe. Yeah, I feel like they should do that more often. I feel like they've nerfed entire subtypes based on like 1 or 2 things. That being said, precision frame fusion rifles as a subfamily outside of main ingredient are still very strong, and we are looking at them too. Are there any plans to add more subclass verbs to more exotics? And they kind of talked about this already. Lots of plans. Nothing concrete to share now, but we're always on the lookout for places we can add subclass verbs. We have to be cautious as some of the intrinsic functionality of the verbs may actually be worse than what is on the exotic weapon. I'm thinking about like if you gave Sunshot Incandescent, that's actually kind of worse than like the explosion explodies that it has now, so you like want to make sure you don't nerf it. Or the uptime of the verb in the exotic weapon would cause severe balance issues with subclass interactions. Will SBMM being present in control have any effect on the way we handle weapon balancing? We already use survival at trials as more indicative game modes for balancing purposes. Survival has had SBMM in trials and Trials has a flawless pool, which enables us to see what good players use and what is effective when they are more likely to care about winning. It will, however, allow us to see what the different skill groups of players that generally avoid survival or trials use and what they are effective with and when they are not in skill pools that are as mixed as Control used to be. Is it not mixed anymore? Oh, I just mean because they're switching to SBMM. I got it. Proctor, if skill-based matchmaking continues to roll out over time, it may give us the option to revisit weapon skill gaps. If. Interesting. What are your plans for Sniper and Linear Fusion Rifle Flinch? Special Linear Fusion Rifle. For Sniper Rifle Flinch, we have dramatically increased the time it takes for the reticle to reset back to center after taking damage, which in playtests has seen a marked decrease in the amount of times players are able to shoot through the flinch. We also greatly decreased PvE flinch to counter this. This will not prevent players from trading with the sniper rifle on their first shot, nor will it hurt players using sniper rifles who disengage to allow the reticle to reset before peeking again, but it should hopefully address the instances of hitting someone using a sniper rifle with multiple crits only to get sniped through it. Yes, that happens all the friggin' time. If this change plays out successfully in the game outside of testing, we will try to migrate it over to special LFRs. Any fusion rifle changes coming, like a rapid fire frame buff. Want to see how the shotgun changes land before we rebuff rapid fire frames. What can be done to make Head Seeker more interesting? The plan is to increase the duration the perk is active, have the perk reset on body shots when it is already active, and have it increase aim assist by a very small amount. In playtest, it's very good, arguably one of the best neutral perks on pulse rifles. Interesting. So I guess save that for the time being, if you have one. Do aggressive frames have high caliber rounds baked in? No. However, the flinch from a single shot is proportional to damage, so high damage per bullet weapons will flinch more than low damage per bullet weapons. Wow, I never knew that. Dynamic sway reduction seems like one of the most misunderstood perks in the game. Can you explain how that works? Dynamic sway reduction starts working as soon as you start firing. Each subsequent shot improves its effects, increasing accuracy and stability until it maxes out around 20 shots. So higher RPM weapons get maximum benefits more quickly than low RPM weapons. Perk deactivates as soon as you stop firing. What exactly does box breathing do? Yeah, these days I don't even know anymore. After being ADS for 1.5 seconds without firing, box breathing increases the precision damage multiplier of the weapon and increases the aim assist fall off distance by 10%. It resets when you fire the weapon or leave ADS. Is there a way to estimate how much zoom decreases the effect of cone angles? I never talk about cone angles. I don't care. Okay, that's the end. TwitchCon, Bungie is doing an emblem. Player support reports. This is stuff they've already talked about. Your deep sight focusing, the double perk now gives you guaranteed deep sight. Dark Falcon will be shipped in mid-October. Known issues. Herod C focusing. Did not know that. Tower loading times have increased. Not great. Brand Claimer buff and War Priests. Interacting with the Callous statue buttons too quickly can soft lock players. Players are unable to upgrade to Witch Queen. Ribbon can become invincible in Last Wish. Alright. Movie of the week. Art of the week. Good stuff. That's a wrap on our latest TWAB-tastic adventure. Hopefully the update about account bans as the investigation into improved practices that ease some worries. That and the nifty Q&A with the weapons team has been interesting to see develop. We hope you enjoyed it. We're inching closer to Festival of the Lost with all the spookiness that entails. Bring out the Masked Guardians because it's almost that time once more. Well, more on that in a later TWAB, but for now, drink that water, prioritize self-care, and remember to always lead your kindest foot forward. Until next time, friends. Didn't they say there was going to be something about... Okay, for the immediate future, we're able to share a closer look at upcoming economic changes coming to Destiny 2 for Season 19. Where there weren't economic changes in this? It was like, I mean, it was about all the weapon stuff, but that's not the economy. I don't know what's going on here, so maybe that got changed, or maybe I'm misreading it, but this was a fun read. It's, you know, we don't have exact numbers on things yet, but that gives us a pretty fair picture of things that are coming, including a Divinity nerf, which is fun. I'm sure everyone will be totally chill about that. These getting new perks is interesting. So yeah, that was, you know, after weeks and weeks and weeks of like literally pretty much nothing TWABs, this was at least something, even if we're not getting every specific. Obviously, it's going to be a bigger deal once they start laying out changes to 26 different exotics. That's going to get kind of insane. They said some of those are nerfs too, so it's not like everything is going to get buffed like Borderlands style, but this was good. They asked a lot of good questions in here, minus the Australian ones that I did not understand at all, but my throat is about to collapse, so I think I'm done, but thank you for watching, and I'll probably have more to say about this later.